So far as we've been working with text on our slides in this lesson, we've been accepting the default for the spacing and any indents we might see. Again, as we can format text in any other way, we can also adjust how the spacing and the indents work. So let's work with a slide that has a little more text on it. And if you're jumping to this lesson, we're working with introducing ECP5C, but if you want to get caught up, click the Office button and open. And from your Lesson 5 folder of your exercise files, open up this one, Introducing ECP5D. Give it a click, click Open, and you'll be all caught up. Alright, so let's jump to slide number 4 over here. And you can see we do have some text here on this slide. Looks like a bulleted text, and then down below we've got some other bullets that use dashes, but we'll play around with this text, and we'll play around with both the spacing and the indents. So the first thing we need to do is just click inside the box anywhere, and we see the border that actually exists around this text box. The next thing we're going to do is just work with this first bullet. So we're going to select that text by clicking and dragging from the word select to the end of products. Now the current spacing is set by default according to the size of our font and how much text appears in this specific box. The spacing button can be found up here in the paragraph group, so if you need to, click the Home tab. And in the paragraph group, this is your spacing button right here. So when we give that a click, we see a drop down. We have single spacing, 1.5, double spacing, there's triple spacing. We also have line spacing options. So we're not exactly sure what kind of spacing is being used here, but let's just click on double space. So you can see what happens is with double space, there's a lot of room left in between, and the size of our font has to adjust so it still fits within this box. Let's go back up, and we'll go to single spacing. Again, the font size has changed. It's gotten much bigger because there's more room now inside the box for our text. But let's go up here to our spacing button one more time and click on the line spacing options. Down here in the spacing section, you can see we've got a little more control. First of all, how much space there is before each bullet. So right now there's 7 points and 0 points at the end. So if we were to add a new bullet here at the end of our first one, there'd be 7 points between it and the next one. There'd be 0 added to the end of the bullet. So it's all added in front of the next bullet. And that's because we see 7 points here before and 0 points after. There's our line spacing set to single. Now if we click this drop down, we have 1.5, there's double. We can also put in an exact amount or use multiple amounts. Let's start with exactly. Right in here you can see we can put in the exact number of points that we use in between each line of text as our spacing. Now if we come down here to multiple, then we're not working with points, but we're working with lines. So right now you can see triple spacing would be used. But let's say we wanted it to be just less than single spacing. Well, we can come in here and type, for example, 0.8 or 0.9, or we can use the up and down arrows to move up and down. You can see it moves half a point at a time, or half a line. I'm going to try 0.9. How about that? Put in 0.9, make sure multiple selected, and click OK. Okay, so it's a little bit less than single spacing, which kind of crams it together nicely into this little area. It will adjust the font size for you if it has to make everything fit nicely inside this text box. Alright, so there is our spacing. Now, when we click below this bullet, you can see the outline of a new bullet that's about to start. And the space between the word products and this new bullet is 7 points. 7 extra points are added on top of the line spacing to make extra room for the bullet, and that's according to what we just saw under our spacing options. Now let's talk about indenting. Right now, none of this text is actually indented, and I'm going to come over here to baked goods, and if I look at this list, pastries, breads, and bagels are actually part of baked goods. So if I wanted to, I could click in front of pastries, come up to my paragraph group here, and I do have an indent button. So when I click this and it says increase list level, it's really going to indent my text. So you see it gets indented as a sub point. I could do the same for bread and bagels, one at a time, or I could select them both and hit the button once to move them both in. Now if I move too far, if I indent a little bit too far, I can come back by decreasing the list level. There, that looks good. Not only did it decrease or increase the level, but it also adjusted the text size so that it makes sense as a sub-bullet to be a little bit smaller in font size. You can see the font size here is set to 26, whereas the main point is 29. Alright, so that covers spacing and indenting. Next, we'll talk about aligning text.